Hi, welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're going to be building this, the DB-01 from Tamiya, and I'm taking it from box to track in one day. So if you're interested in seeing that, you better stay tuned. Oh yeah, also, apparently the last video was a little bit controversial, so I've been asked to say Tamiya are amazing. Buy everyone to go racing. Also, not expensive. And you don't need any upgrade parts, and they're not expensive anyway. Tamiya, the best. Perfect. That's good.
No one is available to take your call. Please leave a message.
So I'm all laid out, ready to go, and it's now 8:54 AM. So we've got from 9 o'clock till 7. So we haven't got that long. Can I actually build a full race car and take it racing all in one day? Would you like to win a RC Icon, the Porsche 959? I am raffling one off for the price of a coffee. Only 11 days to go. So if you'd like to give me the chance to win that, link in the description. Now, to try and speed things up, we're going to have to double up because I've got to do the body. The body takes time to dry. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out the body and get it painted. Now, I'm going to do it pretty boring. I'm going to do it the red as well, but I've changed to a different red. I'm actually going to do PS60, which is like the Ferrari red that they do, to make it a little bit more vibrant, and then I'll back it in white. The actual windscreen's cockpit area, in the decals it's blue, but I plan to do it the normal kind of smoked colour, so I've got to mask that off as well, so that's going to take a little bit longer than maybe I'd hoped. Now, there is a few upgrades that I've done in this. Because I'm taking it racing, there's a few things that I've changed because I've got the upgrades already, but I'm trying to keep it as standard-ish as possible. Now, I plan on running on carpet, so I've got to fit gear diffs. So I'm going to fit the gear diffs today. The other things I'm changing out are I'm going to the reinforced plastics. So this is more for strength more than performance, and I've got them already, so I'll fit them. But the performance parts I'll probably fit later on, and we'll take it racing again. The plan is to basically get it built and then run it, and then do the upgrade parts and then run it again and see if that improves things. The other one that I'm going to put in this from now is I'm going to put the slipper set, because I don't want, if I leave that out now because the kit doesn't come with it, I could damage some of the running gear on it, and I don't want to do that. So that's the other change. But I'm going to run all the original suspension, original springs, wheels and tyres I'm not, obviously. I'm going to run probably yellow cactus in the rear and cut staggers in the front, or fusions, something like that. We'll have to see. So I think that covers pretty much everything. So we better crack on, shut up and get on with it, as it's now basically 9 AM. Let's go! Right, so let's cut out the body. Super simple, very easy lines, but watch out, because round the back there is actually 2 cut lines for different cars. And on the Durga you cut out the lower line, not the one that I just cut out on the left hand side. But luckily for me, it didn't ruin the body, because later on that's where I put the ESC, so the air will flow cooler through there. Also, I can turn it on and off without taking the body off. So technically, as if I did it deliberately. As for the rear wing, I always spray it on the underside so it looks glossy on the other side. But make sure you remove the protective film, otherwise you're doing it again. A little bit of washing up liquid and a dedicated brush that I have. Fancy, aren't I? Then give it a rinse out. That gets rid of all the fixing agents, so hopefully it won't react with the paint. Now, as I didn't want to use the sticker that came with it, because I'm not too keen on the whole blue cockpit, I took the actual decal, cut round it, made myself a window mask, Then I use the window mask to block out the window so it's not going to get paint on. If that makes any sense. I think so. Next, I need to mask off the body from the center section so I can lay down the silver first before then adding the red after. Unfortunately, this was eating into the time that really I wanted to put into building the chassis. Now, the key to a really clean paint job is to take your time and look at every detail to make sure all your lines are nice and crisp and true. Not like what I'm doing right now, because I've decided I'm going to rush it from box to track in one day, like an idiot. But in my defense, I make RC content on YouTube as a living, so maybe a little bit different to you at home building your kits. So the body was actually more work than I thought. I had to mask off the middle because it's actually going to be black, but I'm not doing black, I'm doing bright gunmetal because I'm doing a bright red, bright gunmetal as well. But masking it all off has taken more time than I thought, but I've started painting it up. So in between doing coats, I can now turn my attentions to building up the body. It's 10:24, so it's burned up a good hour and a half just to get to that part. So I better get a move on and get this chassis made. Also, the electronics that are going in this are in another car, so I've got to take them out before I can fit them in this. So I better get a move on. Now, in the interest of transparency, I am upgrading now to these aluminium steering posts in blue, but the kit comes with them in metal anyway, so it's not really an upgrade, it's more of a bit of bling. Now, another thing I'm pleased to see in this kit is it comes with a metal motor mount, as that should really help as I'm going to run some totally inappropriate power in this thing.
Yes! He did it! He really did it!
So as this is going to be a racing buggy, it's best to use as much Loctite as possible, as bits tend to randomly fall off. Just like that, the motor mount is attached to the chassis. Now we need to turn our attentions to the diffs. Obviously, like I said previously, we're going to be swapping out the ball diffs that come in the kit with a set of gear diffs. Now the main reason is I'm going to be running on carpet, and ball diffs and carpet with high power, high traction, not a great recipe. And apparently, so I've been told, the ball diffs that come in this aren't the best either. So it's definitely worth upgrading to the gear diffs if you're going to go and run this on carpet. Now there's going to be people that will say this car was never designed for carpet, it's designed to run on dirt. Well, I'm doing it anyway. Suck it up. So that's the rear tower and the wing mounts connected, and I've bolted it to the diff and belt housing. Now all we've got to do is the same thing again on the front. Now this is a little bit harder as the composite material is a lot harder. Right, now we got to that point, stop, run downstairs and carry on painting up the body. It's coming along slowly. I wish I had dark gunmetal, but I didn't have any stock at the time, so we just go with the silver. Now we have to drop the diffs into the chassis. I wasn't overly sold on the way that you tension the belts using those cams that go on each side of the actual diff. It means if you want to change the belt tension, you've got to get back into the diffs to adjust them. Now this is where I made my second mistake, and if you look carefully you'll notice it. Do you see it? The pulley belt side, I've actually connected it up incorrectly. It's supposed to have the fence in the middle separating the two belts, as you can see here. Lucky I noticed before I didn't go too far. Now I have ordered the reinforced belts as I'm going to be running a lot of power in this, so I will have to go back in again and swap them over. Right, now's a good time to go back and look at the actual body. Now the silver's all done and I've let it dry a little bit. Now I've got to remove all that masking tape and then we can go back and paint the red. Now I'm not going to say it's my best work, but it gets the job done. I will be changing this body out for another one. You'll just have to wait and see about that. But for now, let's just go and lay down the red. Now while the body is drying again, I can turn my attentions to fitting the electronics. Now I quickly whipped them out of another car that I had them in, and now I've got to put them in here. Now I will be keeping the reef servo in this, but I will be swapping out the ESCN motor in the next video. But for now I'll run these, as it still has enough power to give this car a good shakedown. And with that, the electronics are done, so we can now turn our attention to the steering. Now I have got alloy upgrades, but for now I'll just run the kit one, but I will upgrade to bearings to hopefully smooth things out a little bit. Right, now we can turn our attention to building up the arms. Now, I had a look to see whether there was any optional upgrade versions, but I couldn't find any. So if you know anything about the arms on the DB-01, can I upgrade them to something else? Or can you get any composite ones, or any information would be helpful. Now, as Tamiya was kind enough to put a lot of shims in this kit, I did spend a little bit of time shimming up a few aspects, especially around the front of the car, to hopefully give me slightly improved handling until I can invest a lot more time dialing everything in. One aspect of building a kit that I am well over is building turnbuckles. I've made so many of them, I don't really have much joy when I put them all together, but having the correct tools does make your life a little bit easier. Unfortunately, one of the tools that I use doesn't actually fit over the ball ends, so I had to use my fingers. Painful. Now, one aspect that you can't see from the footage is I am rushing as hard and fast as I can, as I really think I'm not going to be able to take this to the track and get to run some laps. And the problem with that is that the next time I go racing is 2 weeks away. So it's 4:26 and I've managed to get this far. I'm rushing like crazy. Also, the body is kind of almost finished painting. I've got a little bit more to do, but it only leaves me about 2 hours or so. But it kicks off at 7, the racing, and goes on to 11. So if I keep going, and technically if I get there and just go around the track once, I've made it. But I might not be there for 7. So we'll just keep on going. It's taking forever. As I upgraded to hex on the rear, now was a great time to make sure that the racing rims actually fit. Yeah, nothing like leaving it to the last minute. Now I'm going to run 2S Shorty lipos in this, and obviously the chassis is designed more for long stick packs, but you can still make them fit. One thing that's kind of nice is you can actually move them forward and backward in the tray, so you can work on your actual weight distribution. Apparently the top battery brace is the same as a TT02, so I'm pretty sure in my parts bin I may have a carbon one that I can swap to. Now, normally I run low center of gravity lipos, but I've decided to give these Gen Ace a go. Now, I do plan on running these in the B7, but since they'll go in this, might as well make the most of it. So it's starting to look like a car. I've just fitted the rear spoiler on. Yes, I've got to trim it down a little bit, but it's good enough for now. All the electronics are in it, the rims and tyres are on, starting to look like a buggy. I just need to turn my attentions to getting these shocks done. Now this concerns me a little bit as I'm kind of guessing the setup right now. I think I'm going to have to go back and work on this a bit more, but I don't really have a lot of time to do this at the track. But I think this is what's probably going to let me down the most for its first run out. But obviously I'm going to be upgrading these oils and shocks as well, so I just don't have the time to try and dial these in. I'd like to improve the actual kit ones if I could, just to help someone else out that may be wanting to run a Durga but aren't going to upgrade their shocks. But I think I'm just not going to get the chance. Unfortunately, my guesstimation didn't really fill me full of confidence, as it felt like I was running too soft a oil or too large a hole, oversprung and underdamped. Now I've gone well over time, but I wanted to get a couple of decals on, so the plan was I wanted to modify this cockpit sticker just to remove the outside edge so that I could apply it to my body. Now I finally got the painting done. It's still a little bit damp and stinking the house out, but I get the fun bit of removing the actual protective film. And that will do for now. Well, the time 7:43, and I should have been there at basically 7, so I better get a move on. I've got as far as this. It is a bit bouncier than I'd like it to be. I kind of went with what I guesstimated would work, but it's going to need a bit more dialing in. But I want to get it to the track to give it a go in the same day that I've built it. The paint is almost dry, so hopefully over the next half an hour when I drive there, should be okay. I've already scratched it trying to get it to actually get all the bits and pieces in it, but there you go. Right, let's head off to the track and see how we get on. Oh, God, that was hard work. Stickers. I'll do the stickers while I'm waiting to drive. Right, this is the very first time I've ever driven this car. I trued it up just off camera and we're off for a bit of a shakedown. So don't expect too much. I don't know this car. It's had 0 setup time. I just want to get a feel for it and make sure it actually runs. One thing that becomes apparent really quickly is something's off with the steering. It just feels a bit weird. I'm not sure what it is while I'm driving around, but we'll take a look at it afterwards and see what's going on. But I'm happy to report it did a full race without anything breaking, going wrong, locking up, so I'll take that as a win. A few technical issues, maybe putting the parts on the right side of the car might help, but we have some people who know better.
Hang on, which way is this going?
The other way up.
Very nicely then, and I've said This is you, isn't it?
Your one went into orbit, didn't it? Over that back.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
Now that's what you call leaving it a bit too late. Now it turns out I'd actually put the D1 and D2 front hubs on the wrong sides. So yeah, that explains quite a lot, but now they're back as they're supposed to be. Let's see how it goes. Also, I don't have a transponder in the car right now, but I did purchase a second transponder as I always want to have 2 cars at the track. Basically, in case I break one, I can just flip straight to the other one and drive it without messing about. Now, considering how unset up this car is, it starts to feel okay, and when I look at this I see real promise. It does struggle off of the tabletop coming down, but overall it feels pretty good considering it's had 0 run time whatsoever, and I see real potential in it. Now the big one is obviously these shocks don't feel correct at all. I think I missed the mark completely with them, but taking that into account, I think it drives really well. The DB-01 definitely feels at home on a carpet track. Quite a bit of crashing on the other side of the jump, but obviously that's down to the suspension setup. I'm also running an old set of tyres on the front and rear, as these are ones that I've taken off my SB401 when I replaced them for a new set. Right, see if we can take you. I haven't even got stickers on, makes it lighter.
Well, I've worn the paint off of that.
It was a bit of a rush job.
That's alright.
But I would have done that black, but I didn't have any.
This must be the A final, is it?
That's right, yeah.
It's
the Durga A final, mate. This is where it's at. Hot.
They get so hot.
Yeah. Oh, that sounded good.
That is front end off.
Now I purchased a transponder and I fitted it in the car, and I was hoping in this final that I was going to be able to set some solid lap times to give me a base. Race 2. Oops. Oops.
I was first as well.
I missed that. Unfortunately, the transponder number wasn't added, so I don't have any, unfortunately, but I got to run it in anger, and there is another Durga in this race as well, so we see how it goes up against that. So after a horrific start, I actually find myself in 4th. Now I skipped forward a little bit, mainly because it was such a messy race. I tried to work out where everyone was and I kept failing. I couldn't track everybody, people were crashing, people were changing all the time, so I honestly don't know. And being that the transponder in the car is not reading out my lap times, I just don't know. But this bit of footage helps to see where I am against the cars in front of me as I pull them in or drop away from them. So as you can see, not so bad. I'm pretty happy. Obviously people make mistakes and you then pass them, but if you're straight up against another car like the car in front of me now, that is a Durga. So putting the two Durgas together, whereabouts are we? Well, we don't look to be too far away, does it really? Now the Durga in front of me has a lot of hop-ups, including upgraded suspension. Bit of a shame it got punted off then, as I could have got more data from that, but I'm really happy with how it's going so far. Now obviously everything's brand new and tight, so hopefully over time things will loosen up a little bit and then it will start to be a little bit smoother. Plague Bearings did send me some ceramic bearings for this, so I'll swap them out when I do the next upgrade for the next video. Hopefully that will make the car even smoother. So there you go, I actually got to run it around the track, built and run all in one day. But yeah, there was a few mistakes. I'll cover that when I get back to the studio, but it does actually work. So it was a shame I didn't get the transponder working to get some lap times. It was a very messy race, but I could have done with that data, as I could have picked out my best one or two to give me a baseline. I honestly don't know. The other Durga that was in that race apparently is about a second a lap off the fast guys that are there. So if you go on that, I've got a second that I need to claw back. And that's what we plan to do. In the next episode, I'm going to fit all those expensive upgrades like the shocks. I've got the universals to go on the front. I've got some better electronics to put in it. And I've got a lightweight body to use. Also, I need to find some titanium screws set as well. I need to weigh it and see where we are as well on that. Got to pick up some new tyres front and rear, as the ones that are on here are the used ones that I had off of my SB401 Type R. Then hopefully we can start to tune it in a little bit and I can start pulling in that performance. Now I've got nearly 2 weeks before we go racing again, so I've got a little bit of time to try and dial this in as best I can. So if you want to see, can I make this as fast as my SB401? Well, now I've got two transponders, we can put them head to head, hopefully. And I think it's got enough in it, I should be able to get reasonably close. But we won't know until we try.